since I was a child.
What's going on, everybody? Today we are driving what is one of my favorite all-time muscle cars, the 1970 Chevelle. And this particular car is actually one of my favorite muscle cars that I've ever driven. It is a 50,000 mile original car. It was sold in Texas, in Tyler, Texas. It's had 4 total owners its entire life. And in 1987, the car was put into storage. And it sat there for over 20 years and did not accumulate any miles. It did not accumulate any rust. And upon restoration, the entire car was there. So during the restoration, they did a full nut and bolt frame off restoration. The quality is second to none. It's absolutely gorgeous. All of the panels on the car are original. Those are original floor. It has an original trunk. It has original rear quarters. It's very, very impressive. There's no rust in the rockers, the floors, nothing. And there's pictures of this car online, so check it out, and you can see when the car was stripped down how nice those panels were. Now, when you drive this car, it's like any old car. When you immediately get in it, it's either kind of like, it's going to be okay, or you know that it's kind of something special. And that doesn't happen that often, but this is one of those cars. Everything on the car is incredibly tight. It just feels the way it's supposed to. It doesn't feel all warmed over, and some stuff comes apart and goes back together, and it just doesn't feel quite right. But this thing is super smooth. No play in the steering. The brakes are awesome. It sounds the way it's supposed to sound. The ride is the way it was back in the day. It is just super pure and nice. It's got ice cold air conditioning. It's 90 degrees outside. I'm cruising down the road. It's 200 degrees. It has a tach. It has a clock, which works, by the way. It is originally a Cranberry Red, over red car. Power steering, power brakes, 8-track, air conditioning, buckets, console, everything you'd want. The engine is a 396, 350 horse. It has the turbo hydro transmission, 330 gears in the rear end. I wish I could be in the car with me because this thing just drives perfectly, and I very, very rarely say that. At Classic Car Studio, we are big fans of cars that are usually pretty highly modified, but a car like this, don't change anything on it. It drives really, really, really nice. Flying around a turn here, just, I don't know what else you can ask for. Cosmetically, the car is excellent. Beautiful paint. It is way nicer than the paint that these cars ever came with. It's been wet sanded out and buffed correctly, so it doesn't have a bunch of orange peel in the paint, which we see in new cars. Everything in the interior is new. All new soft parts, headliner, everything fits well. It doesn't rattle. It doesn't do anything weird. It's super, super nice. As I said, all the gauges work correctly. One of the nice things about this car, when you start it up, you just turn the key and it goes. You don't even have to touch the gas. You don't have to mess with it. It's not finicky. It's not weird. I'm actually wondering how they did it this well, because it's rather impressive. Stuff can look this nice, but rarely does it actually drive this well. It's such a nice car. Great acceleration. It never stumbles, never does anything. I wish I had something to kind of nitpick on it for you, because you're going to think I'm crazy, but if you're looking for a really nice car, and that car is a 1970 Chevelle, I don't think you could replicate this car very easily. Great acceleration. The AC is ice cold, the heater works, the frost works, all that stuff is all good. It does have the 8-track player, which has been rebuilt, and it comes with 2 8-tracks. We've got the Beach Boys and the Four Seasons, in case you're fans of those fine groups. Getting thumbs up left and right in this thing. So all the trim around the outside has been restored. All the stainless looks excellent. All the glass is new. If you look underneath, it's highly detailed. very, very nice. Those, like I said, are original floorboards. Rather impressive, because in this area and most other areas north of here, stuff rusted badly. And it's the common thing to see a car like this have all new metal for the most part. And when it's rusted away, that's a good thing. But this car actually has original sheet metal, which is super impressive. Another nice thing about this car, people always want documentation. It does come with the factory Protecto plate, which has the engine number, the transmission number, the VIN, the rear gearing on it, and it does have options. We know for a fact that the car came with power steering, power brakes, air conditioning. I'm at a stoplight right now. Got the air conditioning on. The car is idling perfectly. Everything in this car it's very, very tight. Even the windows roll down nicely. Like, so often we replace all the rubber on these cars, and it's hard to get everything to work the way you want it to, but you can roll, a child with teeny hands could roll this window down. There's no friction, there's nothing there. It's so smooth. Down to stuff like the turn signal indicator is really crisp and nice. And I know this stuff sounds silly, but when people restore cars, they always seem to get, 90 or 95% of the way there and call it done. And that's the kind of stuff that's just way off. But on this car, this puppy is dialed into the max. I like the gearing in the vehicle. It's nice around town. You can also hop on the highway, and it's really nice and easy. Kind of best of both worlds. Any higher and, well, it can be a little bit much. But to each his own. Cruising about 40 miles an hour right now. Smooth as glass. Brakes work excellent. Plenty of vacuum for that booster to work off of. The engine's completely rebuilt to all stock specifications. I've been through the numbers on the engine. Everything's correct. It all matches that Protecto plate, as I already talked about. But it does have the correct intake. It has the correct carburetor. It has the correct heads. It has the correct exhaust manifolds. I don't know what else you want, people, but the car is totally right. The engine is the matching numbers transmission. The rear end is the correct rear end for the car. That's hard to know without the Protecto plate, but since the Protecto plate numbers match our rear end numbers for warranty purposes originally from the factory, we know that we've got an original rear end in a car, and like I said, it's hard to state that, but we can on this car. The transmission does have the VIN number stamped on it, so that's pretty easy as well. Also, the date codes for production on both the engine, the transmission, and the rear end predate the build of this car, which is also important to look at. You can't just look at those stampings and call it a go these days. It's nice to have a couple of numbers to reference off of. I'm hopping on the highway real quick on our way back to the shop, but gets up to speed nicely. No hands on the steering wheel. The thing just cruises. It's aligned properly, which is kind of a rare thing to find in old cars. People seem to suffer through poor alignments these days. And they're classics. They don't necessarily need to. Or maybe the cars are so whacked out they have to. But this thing is dead nuts on. Another interesting thing is there's no weird wind noise. And that's really, really hard to achieve. Newer cars have much better seals. But this thing is just absolutely phenomenal. So I encourage you, if you've been looking for a long time for a really nice 70 Chevelle, this is the one. And if you're thinking about restoring one, it may be hard to get one this nice, even if you replace everything and make everything brand new. It's not an easy thing. I am driving 70 on the highway right now. Car's performing wonderfully. Really worry-free driving here. It's an easy car to drive with the power steering and the power brakes. Doesn't stumble, doesn't do anything weird, doesn't make you think twice. You can kind of forget about whether or not you're going to make it there and just enjoy the ride. And that can be a hard thing in old cars. Got the old Beach Boys going in. Let's see if it works. Oh! Not my favorite song. but that is a working 8-track player. And it comes with not one, but 2 8-tracks for your listening pleasure. This 8-track even sounds good. I don't know how the quality is that good. I mean, it's not a modern digital unit, but that's sweet. Old 8-track.
Today, temperatures will be near 88.
Flips over to the radio nicely. The 4 Seasons, all right. Ah. All right, Frankie Valli.
Thanks for coming to our YouTube page. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. If you want notifications, click on the bell. If you want to buy some cool merch, click on the info card, or you can click on the link in the bio.